Hello, Scott here, and welcome to kind of a little surprise episode. Well, it's not a surprise episode, but we have some kind of interesting, new, exciting news coming out of the Phil Collins camp. In fact, I think the biggest thing that I am excited about regarding what we're going to talk about today is the fact that there just is something to talk about, that we have something new, very much like all the Peter Gabriel fans had for most of 2023 with I.O. And so the fact that we have something now, it's not brand new. We'll address that in a second, but it is like new things. The website was just updated yesterday. And so we have this big celebration of both sides that we're going to talk about, a big vinyl package that's 5 records big. Do we have digital CD? We don't know yet. And then, of course, there's a Record Store Day live from the soundboard thing I want to talk about as well. Okay, so let's talk about the both sides 30th anniversary, All the Sides. It's called All the Sides. First of all, I had 2 theories about this. I'll tell you what it is in a second. But I had 2 theories about this that just popped into my head. First of all, this is like the first anniversary since Concord owns the masters and is now trying to exploit the masters in a different way and trying to monetize the records better than the labels had done in the past. Perhaps, if that's who's involved. I mean, if they're not involved, if that's just more of a publishing thing, if this is just Rhino, cranking out things as they always have, because they've done the White Duke and they've done the Clear Selling England, and they did the Invisible Touch. They also did I believe it was, were they involved as well with the No Jacket Required? I can't remember. Anyway, by the way, there's also a Turquoise, and then there were 3 on vinyl that's coming out soon, if you haven't seen that. So is it them just kind of like, is this the first album? Like, obviously you would have wanted to start with Face Value or No Jacket or But Seriously. So starting with this, like one of his like lesser selling records to do a big deluxe box set, it seems odd, but maybe it's just the first anniversary since they've owned this. And so when we hit, like next year is 2025. So that will be the 40th anniversary of No Jacket Required. So you can bet they're going to do a box set like this. Okay, so what do we have? Phil's 5th solo studio album, Both Sides. The album Both Sides, reissued as a special deluxe 5 LP box set. We have the remastered original album. So it sounds like it's not the 2016 remastered, because this is cut at half speed at Abbey Road. So this is not necessarily the remixes. This is the original album. So there's a big difference there. We did have remixes that happened with all of the Phil records by Nick Davis in 2016. So it sounds like that's not these mixes. It's instead the original mixes, but cut at half speed. Now, one thing that's surprising is it's still a double disc. It's not a quadruple disc like The Lamb Lies Down, or 3 discs where it's just like 1 or 2 songs per side. It was always that way when this record came out in 2016. The other thing is that we have B-sides, live cuts, rarities on vinyl for the very first time. We have a 16-page booklet, which I'm excited to see, and newly written and extensive liner notes by Michael Hahn. We'll see what that's about. And the set is housed in a slipcase with picture sleeves. Okay, so what that sounds like to me is that, and based on the pictures, is that we are going to have a box that's very similar to, sort of similar to this, but not where it opens. Instead, it has, I'll bring up an example. But it looks like every record is going to be in its own sleeve. I think the album itself is going to be in the gatefold like it was in 2016. Now, one of the cool things that I think a lot of people will like about this release is that the gatefold that they released in 2016. Now, another thing I should mention is that this release has the original album cover, not the photo of Phil when he was older in 2016. That release they did in 2015, 2016, which is a great record, by the way. It sounds amazing, and the cover is beautiful. Touch is really nice. That reissue is very hard to find. Both Sides is not a very popular album. Same with Dance Into the Light and Testify. So it's very difficult to find Testify on vinyl, Dance Into the Light, and Both Sides. In fact, they would probably, if you did find them, they'd range in the hundreds or more. They just didn't do a big pressing. They did the initial run. If you didn't get it when it came out in that year of early 2016, I believe, then you probably missed your chance. Now, they continued to press versions of But Seriously, No Jacket Required, and Face Value. So you're able to get his older face on those records with those mixes. They ended up doing, I think they did an orange and a clear No Jacket Required, and then they did like a turquoise But Seriously later on. So those records were easy to find. It's also not impossible to find Going Back, because that didn't really sell in the first place. But Testify, Both Sides, and Dance in the Light, if you miss that chance, you miss the chance. And so I think a lot of people are excited now that there'll be a chance to get this on vinyl. Will they reissue just the standalone gatefold with this? Maybe. They're not mentioning that. I don't think they will, but it's possible now that they'll just do another pressing of that. This record was not unpopular, and it was slightly more popular than Dance into the Light. So, of course, this isn't like a mass. It is definitely a bizarre record to do a 5 record box set for. I'll be honest, like the fact that we don't have a 5-disc box set for Selling England or for like The Lamb, you know what I mean? That's kind of weird to me that we don't have this like live tracks and bootlegs and in the studio stuff. That would be amazing, but instead we're getting it for Both Sides before Face Value, before But Seriously. That to me is a bit odd. But again, it could just be the timing of when the new owners kind of took things over. Obviously, we've seen like this influx of more and more vinyl releases happening. Now, a big question would be, will this come to digital? Well, that's kind of a moot point because I think most of these songs are already on digital. I think they're on the 2016 remasters, the bonus edition, and on CD. This actual box set, will it come to CD? We're not seeing that so far, so I don't think so. I think we would have already seen it. I think the fact is, I mean, this is very expensive, right? So let's see how much it is in US. I'm actually getting on like an infinite loop when I click pre-order. Let's see if I turn off pop-ups. Okay, so it looks like it's $124 US, and it comes out September 20th, 2024. Let's talk about the track listing in a sec, but I will say the price, it's not cheap, but I think from a margin perspective, I think that they'll probably, they'll probably make decent money on this box set. So I think we'll see more happening. I think it just depends on who owns the rights to things, and how easy it is to get sign off too. And that's the other thing that I wanted to mention is that we know that Both Sides is Phil's personal favorite record of his. He's always been a champion of this album. So it might be him saying, let's expand this record. Let's do this on vinyl. I don't know. I doubt it, but maybe. Okay, track listing. So we have 5 LPs, which means we have 10 sides. Okay, let's call this 10 sides sort of live. So LP1 is the original album, which have 3 songs on each side. Then LP2 is also the original album, which is 3 songs on each side, except for side D, which has 2 songs. We Wait and We Wonder, Please Come Out Tonight. It's a great album. I love this album. Love it. Okay, LP3. We have Can't Find My Way demo. We have Hero demo. Both sides of the demo every day. So just 4 demos, unfortunately. Then we have some unreleased sides. We have Don't Call Me Ashley, which I believe is instrumental. Rad Dudesky, which I also believe is instrumental. For a Friend, which is a beautiful song. I've Been Trying, which is a beautiful song. I've Been Trying, I think, was that released on the Love Songs? I think it was released on the Love Songs mix. Okay, then we have LP4, which is live. Both Sides of the Story live, Can't Turn Back the Years live, Survivors live. That's probably from the Both Sides tour. Then we have Everyday live, We Wait and We Wonder, and Both Sides of the Story from Paris Unplugged. I'm very excited. That disc alone is what I'm most interested in. To basically have like a live album of both sides. That's really cool. Here's where things get a little bit bizarro world. Why do we have disc 5? Explain to me why we have disc 5. Hanging Long Enough, Hand in Hand. These are live. Hanging Long Enough live, Hand in Hand live, which, by the way, having Hand in Hand live as an official release is very nice. Doesn't Anybody Stay Together Anymore live? That's also very nice to have. Always, the cover song live. Stevie's Blues, There's a Place for Us instrumental, and Take Me With You. What is this? What is this side? What is the purpose of having a 5th disc that has But Seriously songs and a No Jacket Required? Well, okay, just has some live songs. I don't know. To me, that's a weird side. Why couldn't you have taken more live songs from the Both Sides tour? What else was there on that tour? Not much, maybe. Yeah. I'm wondering if this box that they have was meant for 5 discs and they had to come up with a 5th. Honestly, I don't know. I don't know what else they could have put here. I think they could maybe have put, like, perhaps Hanging Long Enough, Hand in Hand, Doesn't Anybody Stay Together. Are those recordings from, do we know if they're from the Both Sides tour? Maybe that's why they're on there. If they're not, then I think this is weird. Oh no, they're from Collins MTV Unplugged performance, which might be, okay, yeah, that might have just been the 1994 era. Anyway, There's some problems with this, but then there's like ultimately I'm excited that they're doing this. I'm happy that they're making more records. I think it's problematic. The comments in this video, let me know what you think, but the comments in this video, I think a lot of people are going to be like, what is the point of this? I totally get that. From a vinyl standpoint, I think I like to see them do this. This is maybe a touch over the top. I feel like they could have done this as like a 3-disc or a 4-disc, in my opinion. I personally love this record, so I'm thrilled, and I'm thrilled to see Rhino caring about Phil. Like there's somebody in an office that puts this big record together, this 16 booklet together, that writes an essay about this album, that searches, for all of these songs and puts them together. One of the things I think we all would have loved is a little bit more than what is already put on the 2016 or 2015 remasters, right? You go to Spotify, you go to Apple Music, a lot of this stuff is already listenable. I don't personally listen to a lot of these B-sides. Some of them are good. I do love demos. I love home demos. They have incredible home demos for Face Value and for But Seriously. And there's some cool demos on here. And it'd be nice to have it on vinyl. I mean, with box sets like this, I don't find myself listening to some of those like extra discs. I usually just kind of go to the album tracks or the live stuff. I don't think I'll enjoy a side of like Castaway songs. I think the B-sides on this album are especially weak. In fact, I would say that this is probably because this record had a lot of songs and a lot of kind of improvised songs. It didn't seem like there was a lot of extra material for it. Whereas, I mean, I think the same could almost be said for But Seriously in a way. Well, for all the records, really. I mean, there wasn't a lot of extra material, with the exception of Dance into the Light. And I think Testify have a lot of extra material, and they're quite good. Maybe that's just more of a testament to the digital era where you could just now record more and more songs for no additional cost. Whereas back in the Face Value, it's like you have the band, you have the guys in the studio, they're going to record the album cuts, and that's pretty much it. I think the big question, we have another record we're going to talk about in a second, but I think the big question is there more to come? I mean, is this, like I said, next year is the 40th of No Jacket Required. Will they do this to No Jacket Required? This box format, will we see this done for almost every record? People are going crazy for vinyl right now. People are going crazy for legacy artists. The people who grew up with Phil, all the way from my age to people in their 60s now, they have tons of money. They're collecting vinyl. They love hi-fi. They love buying records. I see them at record fairs. I see them at Record Store Day. I see them at record stores on just your average Saturday. They're spending tons of money. So if you want to know why are they doing this, they're doing this because people will buy it, and they can do 1,000 of these. They can do 2,000 of these, and they'll make good money on them. I don't know how many they're pressing. I'd be curious to find that out. I think the thing that I find so exciting, I mentioned this before, is just the fact that there are new things happening, and that my Facebook feed yesterday was blowing up from everybody in our private Facebook groups and Phil Collins groups and Genesis groups were showing the new records, the Live from the Board, which we'll talk about in a second, the both sides stuff, and on Reddit and on Twitter, and getting official emails from Phil Collins. That was a big deal because some of these channels have gone dormant, like the official Phil Collins page, and his website was just updated. These things have they have the tendency to go dormant. So to have new stuff happening is exciting. I find that's a positive. The other thing I want to talk about before we go on to Live from the Board, this is like one of the things that frustrates me about this 5-disc. 5 discs. Remember, I think that's similar to the last Domino, which was problematic in itself. Less records than the BBC box set, which is just absolutely bizarre. Well, one of the things that Phil Collins, mainly Genesis fans, have been asking for so long is complete shows on vinyl, like complete, nicely mixed shows that even include like Phil's banter and band introductions. And we have that when it comes to bootlegs. My friend George kindly sent me the We Can't Dance one, and I have the No Jacket Required one. I think it's maybe missing 1 or 2 songs. But I think if we were to do a 5-disc vinyl, one of the things that fans would be really interested in, Concord or Rhino, if you're watching, please call the number below. I'd be glad to help. One of the things that I think we've been wanting for so long is a complete show. And I think a great complete show, what I feel like is missing from my collection is the complete But Seriously show. Maybe a recording from MSG, maybe the audio from the Berlin show if they have the complete show. But we're talking about like the long intro with Hand in Hand. And we're talking about maybe some of the songs that we didn't get to hear on Serious Hits, stuff like Colors and I Wish It Would Rain Down whenever that was played. The slow version of Doesn't Anybody Stay Together Anymore. Like, So that complete set, basically like the Berlin VHS, the Serious Hits VHS, but on vinyl. That would be really nice. Now, would it cannibalize the Serious Hits vinyl that still sells really well? Perhaps. But if you're going to do 5 discs, like you can do a complete show. You could do the Lamb complete show. You could do any complete show on 5 discs. So that kind of frustrates me a little bit, is that like it seems like they're scraping the barrel for digital reissues that we've already have, when we could release some sort of live show. Even the Both Sides is a great set list. The Both Sides live show, the Dance into the Light tour live show on 5 discs would be awesome. I don't know. Maybe they have the metrics that wouldn't sell. Okay. The second thing I wouldn't be able to talk about if it weren't for my friend Adam from the Genesis Museum is this cassette he sent me right here. Dark. It's hard to see. Called Live from the Board Official Bootleg. He knows how much I love bootlegs. This is such a weird tape because it has the spine this way and then the cover is upside down. So it's actually a misprint. It looks like super, super cheap. But it's, first of all, I'm grateful that I have it. This looks like it was Phil Collins in the Indescribable Din. What is that? Live from the Board. So this tape here has only 4 songs. It has Sussudio and Easy Lover on side A. Sussudio, Easy Lover, Separate Lives, My Girl, and then the same thing on side B. Side A and side B are the exact same. Adam knows how much I love Phil Collins cassettes and rare cassettes and bootlegs, and so he sent this to me. And it's very funny. I've listened to it once. I don't love My Girl or Separate Lives. It is like it. I think this must have been a fan gift, something that they gave fans, because it is official, right? I think there might be a CD version out there. I love having this in my collection. It's so cool. And so to see that as a Record Store Day official release from Phil, like, blew my mind. I mean, honestly, if you sat me down and said, Scott, they're going to release something that they've released in the past and they're going to do it for Record Store Day on vinyl, what do you think it's going to be? This would probably be like my 50th choice. I'm not saying it's a bad choice. The artwork is actually really cool. It's not how they used to do bootlegs, but it's cool. From the board, it's like a pixelated version, a black and white sketched version of a mixing console, and then like masking tape, as they always put masking tape at the bottom of the mixing console to indicate which channel is which microphone or which input source. And so Phil Collins' handwriting is actually really cool artwork. Now, they're doing this on 10-inch, which, why? I mean, that's such a Record Store Day thing. The only time you ever see 10 inches is on Record Store Day, even though record store owners are probably like, please don't do 10-inch. Did you know the cost to do 10-inch is essentially the same as a 12-inch? It is essentially the same. You might be saving a tiny little bit on the jacket, and you definitely save a little bit on shipping, surprisingly. But from vinyl perspective, you're only taking 2 inches off. And what they do is they cut it, they put the disc on, and then they cut the edge of it off. So they just rip the edge of it off and recycle that. And so that's why you don't really save any money. So it's not like this is a budget. And so when people do records on 10-inch, it's because they want to be unique and different and they want it to stand out. But surprisingly, it's one of the reasons why music fans and record collectors hate 10 inches is because it stands out. I have a couple 10 inches in my collection. Very few, and they just like stand out. They're not the same height as my other records, and my record collection is completely irrational, and so I have irrational feelings about 10 inches. Anyway, this is it is the same track list, right? It's 4 songs: Sussudio, Easy Lover, Separate Lives, and My Girl. So it would be a very short record, 2 songs on either side, unless they did the same thing where they pressed. Okay, here's my theory. I bet you any money that it's 4 songs on each side and both sides are the exact same. Maybe. I mean, maybe. The reason why I think that is that you could fit those 4 songs on a 10-inch side, no problem. And it would actually be cheaper because you would only be making like 1 stamper. And then you can do that on both sides. And the label, you could even do the label would be the same. So like they would be saving like a tiny little bit of money by doing the same stamper on both sides. And that's what they did on the cassette. So if this record is a 10-inch record with 2 songs, 2 live recordings on each side, then I'm sorry, I'll eat my hat. But if they actually stamped it on the 4 songs on side A, and then you flip it over, it's the exact same 4 songs on side B, gosh, that would be hilarious. That would be hilarious. And it would save them a bit of money too. That would be so funny. It says on his website, it's previously only available on CD, which is not true. We know that to be not true, unless this is a bootleg of a bootleg, but I don't think so. It's from WEA. Okay, last question for me and last question for you. Am I going to buy the Both Sides box set? And I want to ask you the same thing. Are you going to buy the Both Sides box set? For a lot of people, especially people who are getting into vinyl or beefing up their vinyl collection, if you didn't get a chance to get the 2016 record, which I really suggest, and I'm still looking for a second copy of, it's not impossible. It's hard and expensive to get the original Both Sides vinyl because they didn't make very many of them. We're going to do a video about that very, very soon. It's so ironic. I'm recording this today as there's something in a mail truck coming to my house. More on that another day. Dance into the Light is extremely impossible to get an original copy. Very, very expensive. And it's also very difficult to get the 2016 version of that on vinyl. So I think anybody who doesn't have Both Sides on vinyl will probably pick this up and check it out, especially if the box set looks pretty and looks nice. I liked what they did with the box set. I didn't like what they did with the box set on the singles, like opening the lid. I did like what they did with the Last Domino box. That was beautiful. I didn't mind what they did with the BBC. Can you hear the cicadas? I didn't mind what they did with the BBC, although it's just a little tricky. So this is going to be what I think is like a cardboard sleeve, essentially, and everything fits in the back. I think. I mean, that could have a risk of things falling out, but not if it's snug with the 16-page booklet. Will I get that? I probably will. It'll make a good video to review it on this channel in September, so I will. I'm committing to getting it, unless with the Canadian fees, it's way too much. Please leave in the comments below what you think about the Both Sides box set, and will you be getting it? Will I be getting this record store day? I don't love 10 inches. I don't love these recordings. I don't love record store day products. I don't love lining up for record store day. I love the concept of record store. I love my local record store. I love the people who created record store day. I haven't bought a record store day thing in a while. I actually got a used one last year. There was a couple I was interested in. I'm happy to see Phil's stuff happening at record store day. Surprisingly that and this is Black Friday record store day, by the way. It's surprising that they announced this. Like, I don't even know if Black Friday has announced their listing. I feel like this is a bit premature. I wouldn't be surprised if this was like a mistaken announcement, because usually Black Friday announces their list. It's like an exclusive list. And for record store day, I don't think it's as early as July. So I don't think that has been released as of yet. I would find it surprising that they would circumvent the actual RSD list and post this ahead of time. Now, are they doing it to piggyback off of the other announcement? But then there could also be the argument that you're cannibalizing the social media post of Both Sides. Why not do the Both Sides and then a couple months later announce this? However, these songs are from the Both Sides live tour. So maybe that's the connection. Okay, I've talked too much. Will I be getting this record store day? If it comes up locally for a decent price, or if it's in like a bin, like if it's super expensive, forget it. If it comes up in like a discount bin a couple weeks after RSD, maybe, probably, but I won't be going out of my way for this. I will be going out of my way for the Both Sides. You let me know if you'll be getting this one live from the board or the Both Sides box set. Thanks for watching.